You can lie behind someone's back, but don't be surprised when the truth goes viral. In this compilation, reputations are ruined, lies are undone, and the people who started it? They end up exposed in front of everyone. This is Reputation Destroyed, Public Payback Edition. Watch closely. Start speech, end speech.
He told everyone I cheated, so I posted the truth. He told everyone I cheated. Everyone. His friends. His family. Co-workers. Random people who barely knew me. He painted me out like I was the villain. The heartless girlfriend who broke his trust. The crazy one. The cheater. The girl who ruined him. And for a while, it worked. People believed him. They always believe the loudest voice first. Especially when that voice plays the victim. Especially when that voice is charming. Especially when he tells the story before you even know there is a story. But see, that's the thing about lies. They unravel easy when receipts exist. And me? Oh, I had receipts. Real ones. Screenshots. Messages. Phone records. Photos. Proof that while he was out here running his mouth, telling the world I cheated, he was sleeping with his coworker, taking her on secret dates, telling her I was crazy and controlling while coming home to me like nothing happened. I didn't yell, didn't blow up his phone, didn't beg anyone to believe me. I let him talk. I let him lie. And when he was done, when his story reached maximum drama, I posted the truth. Simple. Surgical. One screenshot. One post. One perfect caption. And just like that, his entire life fell apart. In front of everyone. My name's Talia. Marketing coordinator. Nothing wild. Nothing messy. Just a regular woman building her life. And, at the time, I thought I was building that life with Marcus. Marcus was my boyfriend of 3 years. Funny. Charming. Loved by everyone. If there was a poster boy for good guy energy, it was him. Family man. Friendly at every party. Super respectful on social media. Told everyone he was lucky to have me. Made public posts like, "She's my piece." Couldn't imagine life without her. And me. I believed him. Because why wouldn't I? We lived together. Split bills. Shared passwords. Planned vacations. Talked about getting a dog. Maybe even marriage. We weren't perfect, but we were solid. At least, that's what I thought. Funny how lies feel like love until you look a little closer. It started small. Late nights at work. New passwords on his phone. Weird mood shifts when I asked simple questions. He used to send me playlists during the day. Cute memes. Good morning texts. Now, I was lucky if I got a hey. But I trusted him. Way longer than I should have. Because people like Marcus? They build their lies slow. Quiet. Layered under years of, but look how good I've been. Until suddenly, the same man calling me his piece was telling other women I was his problem. Calling me clingy. Calling me dramatic. Calling me a cheater. At first, I thought it was gossip. Rumors. Messy friend of a friend whispers. Until I saw it with my own eyes. Screenshots. Texts he didn't mean to send. Messages meant for her. Sent to me by accident. A digital fingerprint of the real story. Of the real Marcus. And after that, it wasn't about heartbreak. It wasn't about saving the relationship. It was about facts. Proof. And timing. Because he wanted to tell a story? Cool. I was about to post the truth. Before I knew, we were that couple. You know the type. Instagram soft launches turned full couple goals. Brunch every Sunday. Cute little matching pajama photos at Christmas. Cheesy TikTok challenges neither of us were cool enough to pull off. But people loved us anyway. Family and friends adored Marcus. He's so sweet. Talia, he's a keeper. When's the wedding? And Marcus played the part beautifully. Hand on my lower back at parties. Random I love you texts. Little gifts for no reason. He called me his best friend. Told people I was the calm in his chaos. Posted about me like I was a prize. We lived together in a small but cozy apartment. Split groceries. Built IKEA furniture like we were on a reality show called Barely Functional Adults. He'd make playlists for our road trips. Dance in the kitchen with me on lazy Saturday mornings. Everything about us felt real. Until it didn't. It shifted slowly. Late work nights became common. Girls I'd never heard of started liking his old pictures. His phone got glued to his hand like it was surgically attached. Less eye contact. More distance. More defensiveness over nothing. Me. Hey, wanna watch our show tonight? Him. Can I just get some space? You've been real needy lately. Me needy? This was the same man who used to blow up my phone if I didn't text back in 20 minutes. Now, I barely recognized him. But the dagger? Was hearing from his own friends that Marcus had started telling people I cheated. Behind my back, setting the stage, crafting the story, making me the villain before I even knew there was a plot. I wasn't even mad yet. I was confused, then disgusted, then surgical. Because if he wanted to lie, cool. But he was messy. And messy men always leave a trail, especially when they're cocky enough to think you'll never follow it. And me? Oh, I follow real well. The first red flag wasn't loud. It never is. It was tiny, casual, almost forgettable. But when you look back, it was the start of everything. It was a random Tuesday night. Marcus left his phone on the kitchen counter while he showered. For months, that phone never left his pocket. But tonight, there it was, unattended. And right when I walked past, a notification popped up, an unsaved number, heart emoji, and a preview of a message that said, "When are you going to tell her?" Tell me what? That was red flag number 1. Red flag number 2? A coworker of his, girl I'd never met, suddenly liked every single post I'd ever been tagged in with Marcus. Deep scroll, suspicious energy, and the captions she was liking? Stuff like, brunch with my favorite headache, date night with this one. Almost like she was taking inventory of the life I had, that she thought she was walking into. Red flag number 3 was the slip-up text. Marcus was texting her and me at the same time. Me. Want me to grab dinner on the way home? Her. Miss you already, can't wait to see you again. Except he accidentally sent that last one. To me. Silence. Frozen. Screen lit up like a confession. I stared at it for a solid 3 minutes before my stomach dropped. And that was my line. But the final red flag was hearing from one of his boys, who thought he was being helpful, casually drop. Yeah, Marcus said he caught you texting other dudes. Man's been going through it. Excuse me? That was the moment everything inside me went from hurt to crystal clear rage. Not yelling rage. Not crying rage. Strategic rage. Because now, it wasn't about saving this relationship. It wasn't about saving face. It was about saving receipts. About letting him run his mouth. While I quietly built my case. Let him lie. Let him spread his story. Let him post cryptic loyalty matters quotes on Instagram. Cute. Real cute. Because when I post, it won't be a quote. It'll be proof. And when I post, it's over. Marcus didn't just lie. He performed. Built a whole reality show off his own fake heartbreak. He told everyone I cheated. Friends. His family. Random coworkers who didn't even know me like that. And his story changed every time. Sometimes I texted another guy. Sometimes I was seeing someone at work. Sometimes it was, she just fell out of love with me. But always, I was the villain. And him? Poor Marcus. Devoted boyfriend. Victim. The man left to pick up the pieces of his shattered heart. Insert fake tears here. Meanwhile, this man was living a full double life. Dates with his coworker. Trips. Gift receipts in his car that weren't for me. Uber rides to her apartment at midnight. Whole playlists shared between them like it was our thing. Screenshots. Bank statements. Social media breadcrumbs. He was messy. And messy men? Make my job real easy. I didn't confront him. Didn't blow up his phone. Didn't cry. I just smiled. And every time he told someone a new version of his little sob story, I saved another piece of proof. Because revenge isn't loud. Revenge is patient. Revenge waits for you to feel safe. Before it takes everything. And the moment that sealed it? One of his friends, the real ones, texted me. Just 5 words. You should post the screenshots. That's when I knew. Everybody didn't believe him. People were already side-eyeing the drama. Already questioning the math that wasn't mateing. Already wondering how someone like me, low-key loyal private, became the villain of a story Marcus controlled. Cool. Let him keep talking. Let him keep building his audience. Because when I post, I'm not just clearing my name, I'm ending his. With facts. With timestamps. With the truth. And nothing hits harder than a story you can't spin anymore. For weeks, I played it cool. Silent. Unbothered. Let Marcus post whatever he wanted. Let him play the victim for whoever was willing to listen. He posted little things like, crazy how loyalty means nothing these days. All I ever did was love her. Lesson learned. Never give 100% to someone who only gave you 50. Real bold coming from a man giving his 50% to multiple women at the same time. But I didn't comment. Didn't subtweet. Didn't engage. Because women like me, we move like shadows through the darkness. Quiet. Strategic. Precise. Behind the scenes, I built the folder. Literal and digital. Screenshots of texts. Uber receipts with pickup and drop-off locations. Flirty DMs. Deleted photos that, lucky for me, were still living in my iCloud because Marcus was messy enough to sync accounts and forget. Phew. Better than Netflix. And every new heartbroken post he made, every fake sad song he added to his playlist, every mutual friend giving me the side eye like I was public enemy number one, made me more patient, made me calmer. Because liars like Marcus, they always get sloppy when they think they've won. The moment I knew it was time, he posted a full-on relationship quote graphic. Some long paragraph about being betrayed by the person you trusted most. Then tagged me. Like I was going to sit there and take that narrative. Like I was scared of exposure. That was cute. Really cute. So I spent one night. Quiet. Focused. Formatting the post. Nothing dramatic or messy. Not an essay. Just screenshots that spoke volumes. And amongst them one devastating and clear caption. 7 words. Since you want to tell stories. Here's mine. Then I hit post. And baby, silence never exploded so loud. The second I posted, my phone lit up like Vegas. Notifications. Mentions. DMs from people I hadn't heard from in years. Half of them in shock. The other half, laughing. Because my post was surgical. One screenshot after another. Timeline receipts. His messages. Her replies. Accompanied BYT Uber logs, date confirmations, and deleted pics I was never supposed to have. All laid out like an art gallery of betrayal. With that simple little caption. Since you want to tell stories, here's mine. There was no public meltdown on my part for him to enjoy. No cursing or ranting. Just facts. Just proof. Just him, completely exposed by his own words. And Marcus? He went dead silent. The man who was all over social media 20 minutes ago? Radio. Silence. No posts or comments. No more or that perfected victim energy. Because how do you fight screenshots? How do you spin a lie when every receipt comes with a timestamp? His friends? Oh, they were in shambles. Some stayed quiet. Some unfollowed him immediately. A few even hit me up like, "Yo, you didn't have to end him like that." Didn't I though? Because here's the thing. I didn't ruin Marcus's life. Marcus ruined Marcus's life. I was just the one who posted the summary. Meanwhile, his little side piece? Gone ghost. Account private. Bio updated to something dramatic like healing energy only. Girl, please. Y'all can go heal. Separately. The wildest part? It wasn't even messy. It was organized. Undeniable. This was professional-grade exposure. Clean like a report you hand in for extra credit. People shared it. Talked about it. Quoted my caption like it belonged on a merch line. And me? I didn't post anything else that night. Didn't reply. Didn't clarify. Didn't argue. Because the truth doesn't need defending. Especially when you post it perfectly. The best part about posting the truth is watching them go real quiet. Marcus? Silent. Deleted a few pictures. Turned off comments. Then, the classic move, he posted a black screen to his Instagram story. With white text. Taking some time for myself. Crazy how people believe everything they see online. Sir, it's not everything they see. It's everything you said. With receipts. With dates. With proof. The sympathy party? Over. His little fan club? Dismantled overnight. Girls in his comments posting wow. Guys reposting memes like pray for Marcus. Mutual friends sliding into my DMs like, I mean, if I'm being honest, we always knew something was off. Oh, now y'all knew. Funny how quiet everybody was when he was telling the wrong version of the story. But me? I didn't need their validation. Didn't need applause. Didn't need to repost their fake support. Because revenge like mine is personal, silent, internal. When you post the truth and leave it sitting there like fine art, you don't need to say another word. Marcus finally texted me. Of course he did. Long paragraph. Full of, wow, so this is how it is. Thought you were better than this. Crazy how you embarrassed me over a mistake. A mistake. Sir, 4 months of sneaking around is not a typo. That's a whole job. A whole internship in betrayal. Did I respond? Absolutely not. Because the truth was already out there. Stamped. Sealed. Screenshotted by the entire city. I didn't need to defend myself. Didn't need to engage. Didn't need to clean up his mess. He built that stage. I just turned on the spotlight. And that is how real revenge hits. Not in yelling, not in pettiness, but in silence. After you post the one thing they can't argue with. The truth. Here's the thing about people like Marcus. They know exactly what they did. That's why they get so loud with their lies. Because deep down, they know if the truth ever comes out, it's game over. And for Marcus? Game over. I didn't have to block him. Didn't have to rage text him. Didn't even have to delete old pictures. Because honestly, he deleted himself. Piece by piece. Post by post. His page went from relationship quotes and fake deep captions to straight tumbleweeds. Silent. Embarrassed. Alone. Friends started unfollowing him. Some of his people started following me. Messaging me things like, "Girl, I had no idea. You handled that like a pro. This is how you clear a man respectfully. Love that for me." Meanwhile, I moved on like it was a regular Tuesday. Went to brunch. Posted my iced coffee like nothing happened. Because that's what women like me do. We don't sit in the mess. We stand on the truth. And let everybody else sit in the wreckage they built for themselves. The best part? I never posted another word about it. Not a follow-up story. Not a messy status. Not a subtweet. Because revenge is clean when it's real. You drop the truth. You leave the room. And you let their own shame echo loud enough to finish the conversation. Marcus tried to come back. He tried to text again a week later. "I know I messed up. But you really hurt me posting all that." "Oh, baby. The math isn't mathing. You told the whole city I cheated on you. I posted your words. Your actions. Your receipts. And somehow I hurt you. Nah. We're done here." No response. No energy. Just peace. Just freedom. Just me. Living completely rent-free in his regrets. See, the thing Marcus never understood was that I was never in competition with him. I wasn't fighting for my reputation. I wasn't fighting to keep him. I was just fighting for the truth. And once I posted it, the fight was over. I didn't need to drag it out. Didn't need to air every single detail. I gave people just enough. Let their imaginations and his own guilt do the rest. Because the people that mattered, they knew exactly what kind of person I was. And now, they knew exactly what kind of person he was too. That is priceless. Marcus? Oh, he tried everything after that. Ghost posting sad songs. Story quotes about loyalty. Even reposted some tired meme like, "Sometimes the real ones walk away too early." Sir, you didn't get left early. You got left exactly on time. Right when I saw you for who you really were. But me? I was thriving. New job. New peace. Sleeping like a baby every night because I didn't have to worry about who my man was texting while I cooked dinner. No paranoia. No confusion. No lies. Just freedom. Friends noticed too. Real friends stayed. Fake friends disappeared right along with Marcus. Mutual friends hit me like, "Girl, you're glowing now." Yeah, that's what peace looks like. That's what happens when you clear dead weight out of your life. And Marcus? Every time he opened Instagram, every time he walked into a room, every time someone looked at him sideways, he knew why. He knew exactly where that energy came from. Not from rumors. Not from gossip. Not from me talking behind his back. But from the one thing louder than any lie he ever told. The truth. Posted. Stamped. Sealed. And left exactly where it belonged. Right there for everyone to see. Life after Marcus? Peaceful. Ridiculously peaceful. Like I didn't even realize how loud my life used to be until it got quiet. Not quiet like lonely. Quiet like peaceful. Quiet like healed. Quiet like real freedom. No more second-guessing myself. No more overthinking every little thing. No more living in somebody else's version of the truth. My apartment? Felt different. My mornings? Brighter. Even scrolling social media hit different because I didn't have to dodge passive-aggressive quotes from a man who cheated like it was part of his self-care routine. My real friends? Closer than ever. "Girl, I knew you handled stuff, but that was masterclass. People still brought it up. Still sent me screenshots when Marcus would post something cryptic like, "Sometimes good people do bad things. Sometimes bad people get caught. Fix that for you." I didn't respond. Didn't subtweet. Didn't engage. That's the part people don't tell you about growth. The biggest flex isn't clapping back. It's never needing to clap at all. Marcus eventually disappeared online for a while. Took a break from socials. Probably got tired of getting tagged in memes about how not to fumble a real one. His little situationship didn't last long. Because relationships built on lies? They always fold early. No roots. Just vibes and screenshots waiting to go public. Me. New glow. New circle. New mindset. Same energy. Same boundaries. Same silent revenge policy. Tell whatever story you want about me. Just be ready for me to post the truth. Once. Clean. Without warning. Without noise. Without mercy. Because the people who play victim best fall the hardest when you show the receipts. Especially when you do it like me. Without breaking a sweat. Without raising your voice. Without losing yourself. People think posting the truth is petty. Nah, posting the truth is peace. It's clarity. It's protection. And most of all, it's freedom. Marcus thought telling his version of the story first would save him. That he could paint me as the villain. That he could control the narrative. But real power, real protection, comes from receipts. Proof. Facts that don't need defending. He told everyone I cheated. Lied with his whole chest. Ran his mouth like there wouldn't be consequences. But me, I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I didn't post 10 paragraphs begging people to believe me. I posted once. One clean post. One caption. One truth. And it shattered everything he built. Because the loudest person in the room isn't always right. Sometimes it's just the most scared. Most guilty. Most desperate to tell their version first before anyone can check the facts. But the person who stays quiet, who stays calm, who waits, that person owns the ending. Marcus thought he ended me with a rumor. Turns out, I ended him with a screenshot. And me, I'm good. Better than good. Unbothered. At peace. And if life hands me another Marcus, cool. Just know, I'll let them talk. And when they're done, I'll post the truth. Once. Perfectly. And walk away without looking back.
He humiliated me in front of his friends, so I destroyed his reputation without saying a word. He said it loud enough for everyone to hear. You know what I love about her? She's not that smart, so she doesn't argue much. His friends laughed. The room echoed with it, glasses clinking, a chorus of male voices acting like it was all in good fun. I smiled. Not because I thought it was funny, but because I knew they were watching me. And the only thing worse than being disrespected in public is reacting in a way that gives him more material. So I took a sip of wine, tilted my head, and said, "That's okay. I love that you're not that ambitious. It keeps things simple." More laughter. But this time, it was different. A few of them raised their eyebrows. One of his friends choked a little on his drink. He didn't laugh. He smiled. Tight. "Babe," he said, under his breath. "Let's not start." I wanted to scream. I wanted to flip the table. But instead, I excused myself, went to the bathroom, locked the door, and stood in front of the mirror asking myself, is this what I signed up for? Is this who I've become? A woman who gets turned into a punchline and has to smile through it to keep the peace. I looked at my reflection, and I didn't see someone weak. I saw someone holding back a storm. That night, I didn't argue with him. I didn't bring it up in the car. I played it cool, made him feel like it didn't land. He thought he got away with it, thought I was too embarrassed to push back. But what he didn't know is that while he was busy playing king of the table, I was taking notes, not just on him, but on all of them. The lies, the affairs, the tax evasion jokes, the things they thought would never leave the dinner table. And I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to warn him. I was going to let it all collapse. Quietly, cleanly, and publicly. Because I may not have said a word that night. But silence, that's where I'm most dangerous. He swept me off my feet in the beginning. Not with flowers or poetry. With attention. With intensity. With that relentless kind of charm that made you feel like you were the only person in the room. He listened. He remembered the tiniest details. He said things like, "I've never met a woman who made me think this hard." And I believed him, because he said it while cooking dinner, while folding my laundry, while introducing me to his friends with, This is her, the one I've been telling you about. I thought I was special. I thought he saw me. What he really saw was a mirror, someone who reflected well on him, someone who made him look grounded, smart, stable. I didn't see the red flags right away, because he wrapped them in compliments. You're not like other girls. You don't need constant attention. You're so chill. I love that you're not emotional. At first, I wore those comments like praise. I thought I was proving I could be easy. Then came the first dinner with his friends. The subtle jabs. Tell them what you said the other night about economics. It was cute. Or, she's not into politics. Too many big words, right, babe? They laughed. I laughed too. Not because it was funny, but because I didn't want to seem uptight. That's how it always started. A dig, followed by a smile. A public put down, followed by private reassurance. They just tease because they like you. Don't take it so seriously. I stopped bringing up how it made me feel. Because every time I did, I was told I was overreacting. So I learned to swallow it, to smile on cue. I became the girl who took the joke, the one who could hang with the guys. And for a while, I thought that made me strong. Until I realized I wasn't strong. I was silent. I wasn't chill. I was dismissed. He didn't love that I was different. He loved that I never corrected him, that I made him look smart, funny, important, even if it came at my expense. And I let it happen. Until the night he went too far. And I decided silence wouldn't be his weapon anymore. It would be mine. It didn't happen all at once. That's the part people never understand. It wasn't one big blow-up. It was death by 1,000 comments. You wouldn't get it. She's not into stuff like that. She means well. She's just not super polished. You should have seen the look on her face. Priceless. I was the punchline he passed around the room like cheap wine, and every time I swallowed it with a smile, because I wanted to be the cool girlfriend, the low maintenance, easy to love, laugh it off kind of woman. But inside, I was shrinking. I stopped speaking up at dinners, started dressing safer. I once bought a dress that made me feel amazing. Red, fitted, a little risky. He looked at me and said, "Babe, this isn't Vegas. I changed." He once made a joke about how I mispronounced a word, told it to his friends like a comedy routine. They all laughed. I pretended it was fine, but I practiced that word out loud for days. And it wasn't about vocabulary. It was about value. He needed to feel bigger, so I became smaller. He needed to be the star, so I became the setup line. His friends thought I was sweet, harmless, quiet. They didn't know I had a degree, that I used to give lectures on communication strategy, that I used to speak without measuring every syllable. But he knew, and that's what made it worse. He didn't just strip me down in public. He made sure I stayed that way. Once I tried to call him out. After a dinner party, I said, "I didn't like how you spoke about me in front of them." He scoffed. "They love you. You're being paranoid." I apologized for being hurt, and he kissed my forehead like I was a child. I went to bed that night thinking, maybe I'm the problem. But I wasn't. I was just with someone who needed to dim me to shine. And he didn't even realize. The quieter I got, the more clearly I saw everything. I started keeping notes, not because I wanted revenge. At first, I just needed clarity. I was tired of second-guessing what actually happened, tired of apologizing for things I wasn't sure I did wrong. So I opened a folder, labeled it Perspective. Inside it, I wrote the things he said, the times, the settings. I added screenshots of group messages where he twisted the narrative, notes about how he joked in public, then gaslit me in private. One day, I found a video his friend had posted at a party. It caught him saying, "She's smart when she tries. But let's be real. I'm the brains in this operation." They laughed. And there I was, in the corner of the frame, pouring drinks, smiling, silent. I added it to the folder, and I kept going. I started reaching out, not to his friends, but to their girlfriends, the women who had also sat through the jokes, the ones who used to glance at me with sympathy across the table. I asked them one question. Has he ever put you down to make himself look good? Every single one said yes. One even said, he once told my boyfriend I was his charity project. Like I was lucky to have a man like him around. Another said, he made fun of your laugh once, said it sounded like a seal. I didn't laugh, but no one said anything. I thanked her, and I added that to the folder too. I didn't share it, not yet, because this wasn't about going viral. This was about holding the truth in my hands. Quiet power, the kind that builds while no one's watching. I started posting again, soft things, reflections, little captions like, "The loudest person in the room usually has the most to hide." Or, "Don't mistake someone's silence for absence. Sometimes they're just documenting everything." He never noticed. Thought I was healing. Thought I was getting over it. But I wasn't healing. I was preparing. And soon, he was going to realize that the quietest woman in the room was also the one holding the loudest truth.
He wanted to humiliate me. I let him destroy his own reputation. I stood at the edge of the rooftop terrace, the city lights stretching out before me, each glittering window and flashing billboard a reminder of the world I had chosen to reclaim. Behind me, the party buzzed with low laughter and clinking glasses, the air thick with perfume and whispered conversations. The kind of event where reputations were made and destroyed with a single misstep. I took a slow breath, letting the cool night air fill my lungs. My fingers curled loosely around the stem of my wine glass. My pulse steady, my heart calm. This was his world, the place where he had once thrived, where he had once tried to humiliate me, to shrink me, to make me feel small enough to fit inside the narrow space he had reserved for me in his life. But not anymore. I had survived him, had walked through the fire of his manipulation, had emerged stronger, smarter, unbreakable. And now, as I watched him move through the crowd, his laughter a little too loud, his smile a little too bright, his charm a little too forced, I felt the first flicker of satisfaction bloom in my chest. He had tried to destroy me, tried to chip away at my confidence, to undermine my worth, to twist my words into weapons he could use against me. But he had underestimated me. And tonight, as the whispers I had carefully set in motion began to spread through the room, as the cracks in his polished facade grew wider, as the friends he had once counted on began to pull back, their eyes narrowing, their smiles fading, I knew that the moment I had been waiting for had finally arrived. He wanted to humiliate me. Instead, he had destroyed himself. And as the night stretched on, as the music swelled, as the city lights flickered and danced in the darkness, I smiled, raised my glass, and let the truth do what it always does. Burn away everything that was never real. It started with a joke, the kind of offhand, seemingly harmless comment that slips into a conversation like a needle, sharp and unnoticed until you feel the sting. We had been at a friend's birthday party, surrounded by people I considered family, my laughter light and unguarded, my heart full in a way it hadn't been in a long time. I had just finished telling a story, something silly, something light, the kind of anecdote that usually drew a laugh from my friends. But as the chuckles died down, I felt his hand on my shoulder, his grip just a little too tight, his smile just a little too wide. "She loves to talk, doesn't she?" he said, his voice carrying just loud enough for the people around us to hear. His eyes locking with mine, sharp and unreadable. The room fell quiet for a beat, the awkward, uncertain kind of silence that stretches too thin, that makes people shift in their seats, that turns smiles into tight, uncomfortable lines. I felt my face flush, my pulse quicken, my mind scrambling to find the right response, to brush off his words as a harmless joke, to convince myself that I was being too sensitive, that I was overreacting. I forced a laugh, tried to catch his eye, tried to find some hint of warmth in his expression, some small, silent reassurance that he hadn't meant it the way it had sounded. but his smile didn't reach his eyes. And when he looked away, his hand slipping from my shoulder, I felt the first crack form in the foundation of our relationship. A tiny, hairline fracture that would only grow deeper over time. I tried to shake it off, to tell myself that it didn't matter, that it was just a joke, that I was being dramatic. But deep down, in the quiet corners of my mind, I felt the first stirrings of doubt, the first whisper that maybe, just maybe, he wasn't the man I thought he was. And by the time I realized how deep that doubt had grown, it was already too late. It didn't stop with that first joke. If anything, it got worse. Once he realized I would laugh it off, smile through the discomfort, pretend his sharp words didn't cut as deeply as they did. He grew bolder. It started small. Tiny digs slipped into conversations with our friends. Comments that could be brushed off as playful teasing if you weren't paying attention. "She's a bit of a control freak," he'd say, chuckling as he wrapped an arm around my shoulders, pulling me close. The perfect picture of a doting boyfriend to anyone watching. Or, "She has to win every argument. You should hear her when she really gets going." Sometimes he'd make a show of rolling his eyes when I spoke, leaning back in his chair, sighing dramatically, his body language a silent, exaggerated commentary on my words. At first, I convinced myself it was harmless, that he was just being playful, that I was being too sensitive, that I needed to lighten up, to stop taking everything so personally, to remember that relationships required a sense of humor. But the jokes grew sharper, the comments more pointed, the laughter less genuine. I started to notice the way our friends' eyes would flicker between us when he spoke. The small, sympathetic glances they would throw my way, the uncomfortable silences that would follow his barbed remarks. And still, I tried to play along, to smile, to laugh, to pretend that his words didn't sting, that his digs didn't feel like small, deliberate attempts to chip away at my confidence, to undermine me in front of the people who mattered most. But each comment, each sideways glance, each forced laugh left a mark, small at first, barely noticeable, but growing deeper with each passing day. And slowly, without even realizing it, I began to shrink, to doubt myself, to second-guess my every word, my every action, my every thought. And that, more than anything else, was the wound that would take the longest to heal. The public digs were bad enough, but it was the private manipulations that really broke me. The small, insidious ways he twisted my words, turned my fears against me, made me question my own reality. It always started the same way, with a quiet comment, a gentle correction, a small, seemingly innocent observation about my behavior. "You're being dramatic. You're overthinking this. You're too sensitive. Why do you always have to make everything so complicated?" At first, I would argue, try to defend myself, try to explain why his words hurt, why his jokes felt more like cuts than playful teasing. But he always found a way to turn it around, to twist my concerns into something petty, something irrational, something unworthy of the time it took to address them. He would sigh, roll his eyes, cross his arms over his chest, his entire body a wall of quiet dismissal, his face a mask of patient suffering as he waited for me to run out of steam. Sometimes, he would reach for my hand, his fingers cool against my skin, his eyes soft, his voice low and soothing. "I'm just trying to help you," he'd say, his thumb tracing small circles against my palm, his tone the perfect blend of concern and condescension. "I just want you to be a better version of yourself." And every time, without fail, I would feel the fight drain out of me, my words falling silent, my confidence crumbling beneath the weight of his carefully chosen lies. I began to question everything. My instincts, my memories, my ability to read a room, to trust my own thoughts, to believe in my own worth. He had convinced me that I was too emotional, too demanding, too much. And the worst part, I had believed him. I had let his words shape the way I saw myself, let his lies twist the way I moved through the world, let his manipulations carve away pieces of my self-worth, until I barely recognized the woman staring back at me in the mirror. But what he didn't know, what he hadn't counted on, was that I was still watching, still listening, still learning. And one day, when I had gathered enough strength, I would use his own words to destroy him. The first crack appeared on a Thursday. A small, almost imperceptible shift in the way he spoke to me, the way he carried himself, the way his eyes darted away when I asked a simple question. He had come home late, his tie loosened, his jacket slung carelessly over one shoulder, his phone clutched tightly in his free hand, his eyes already scanning the room as if he were calculating how much he could get away with. "Late meeting," he said, dropping his keys onto the side table by the door. His voice too bright, too casual. Got caught up with a client. You know how it is. I forced a smile, leaned in for a quick kiss, and tried to ignore the faint trace of perfume clinging to his collar, the sharp, unfamiliar scent that felt like a slap against my skin. He slipped past me, disappearing into the bathroom without a second glance, the door clicking shut behind him, the lock sliding into place with a small, final snick. I stood there for a moment, my mind racing, my pulse thundering in my ears, 1,000 tiny doubts swirling together into a single, undeniable truth. He was hiding something. I waited until I heard the water running, the low, steady hum of the shower masking the soft creak of the bedroom door as I slipped inside. My eyes already locked on the jacket he had tossed carelessly onto the bed. I reached into the pocket, my fingers trembling, my breath catching in my throat as I felt the cool, smooth edge of a business card tucked into the fabric. I pulled it out slowly, my heart sinking as I read the neatly printed words. The unfamiliar name, the private phone number, the thin, careful handwriting scrawled across the back. Had a great time last night. Call me soon. Elle. I felt the room tilt around me, the walls closing in, the air turning heavy and oppressive, my heart shattering into 1,000 tiny pieces as I stared down at the card in my shaking hand. He had lied to me. Again. And this time, there was no mistaking the truth. The cracks in his mask were growing wider. And this time, I was done pretending I couldn't see them. After I found the card, something inside me shifted. A quiet, subtle realignment of my priorities. A slow, steady pulling back of the threads that had once held my life so tightly intertwined with his. I stopped asking where he was going. Stopped checking my phone for his messages. Stopped trying to catch his eye when he walked into the room. His jaw tight. His eyes narrowed. His mind clearly elsewhere. Instead, I watched. Listened. Learned. I became a ghost in my own life. Slipping through the rooms of our shared apartment, like a shadow. My presence so quiet, so unobtrusive, that he barely seemed to notice me anymore. I started keeping track, not just of his late nights and whispered phone calls, but of the smaller, quieter lies he told, the ones he thought I was too blind to see. The way he would smile at me just a little too brightly when I asked how his day had been, his words too polished, too rehearsed, too careful. The way he would drop my hand at parties, leaning a little too close to the woman beside him, his eyes lingering a little too long, his laugh a little too loud. The way he would sigh when I spoke, his fingers tightening around his glass, his jaw clenching as if my voice were a weight he could no longer bear. I stopped confronting him, stopped arguing, stopped trying to defend myself against the subtle, cutting comments he slipped into our conversations, the small, quiet ways he tried to chip away at my confidence, to make me feel small, to make me doubt my own worth. Instead, I let him think he was winning, let him believe I was still the quiet, compliant woman he had molded me into. The woman who would smile through the pain, who would laugh off his barbed jokes, who would swallow her pride for the sake of keeping the peace. But inside, I was already pulling away, already untangling myself from the life we had built, already planning my exit, already building a future without him. And the best part, he had no idea. Once I stopped trying to confront him, everything became clearer. I had been too focused on winning arguments, on defending myself, on proving my worth to a man who had never truly valued me. But now, I saw the game for what it was. A twisted, self-serving performance, designed to keep me off balance, to make me doubt myself, to keep me questioning my own instincts. So I stopped playing by his rules. I became an observer in my own life, quietly collecting the pieces of his lies, building a case against him one small, deliberate act at a time. I started with his phone, not by snooping, not at first. I simply watched. Noticed the way he angled the screen away from me at dinner, the way he always kept it face down on the table, the way he never seemed to let it out of his sight, even when we were alone. I paid attention to his schedule, the late nights he claimed were for work, the weekend trips he swore were necessary, the dinners with clients he had never bothered to introduce me to. I checked his social media, not the polished profiles he shared publicly, but the private ones, the accounts he had forgotten to hide from me. The ones filled with likes and comments from women whose names I had never heard, whose faces I had never seen. I found messages, photos, inside jokes that cut deeper than any argument we had ever had. Tiny, casual betrayals that felt like 100 small blades slicing into my heart. I took screenshots, saved emails, kept notes. built a timeline that stretched back further than I had dared to imagine, a record of every lie he had ever told, every moment he had chosen someone else over the woman he had once promised to love. And slowly, the picture came into focus. The life he had built behind my back, the carefully constructed web of deceit he had woven around us. Each thread another crack in the foundation of our relationship. He had underestimated me, thought I was too trusting, too naive, too afraid of being alone to ever question his loyalty. But he was wrong, and when the time came to confront him, I wouldn't just have my voice. I would have the truth, and it would be undeniable. I wasn't alone. I hadn't realized it at first. Too wrapped up in my own pain, too focused on his lies, too consumed by the slow, steady unraveling of my own self-worth. But as I pulled back, as I stopped trying to win his approval, as I quietly reclaimed my power, I started to notice the small, silent gestures of support around me. The first hint came from a mutual friend, someone I hadn't seen in months, someone who had once been a regular presence in our lives, but had slowly drifted away. Her bright, easy smile replaced by a tight, wary expression whenever his name came up. We ran into each other at a coffee shop, her eyes widening in surprise as I approached, her arms wrapping around me in a tight, too long hug that felt like a silent apology. We sat together at a small corner table, our cups of coffee growing cold as we caught up, our conversations skirting around the edges of my relationship, both of us too cautious, too uncertain to address the elephant in the room. Finally, she set her cup down, her fingers trembling slightly against the ceramic, her eyes locking with mine. "I don't want to overstep," she said, her voice low, her gaze steady. "But, is everything okay with you too?" I felt my heart skip a beat, my mind racing as I tried to find the right words, the right lie, the right excuse. But for the first time in a long time, I chose honesty. "No," I said, my voice a little too loud, a little too raw, the truth catching in my throat like a jagged piece of glass. "No, it's not." She reached for my hand, her fingers warm against mine, her grip strong and steady, and I felt the first crack in the wall I had built around myself, the first hint of light slipping through the darkness. "You're not alone," she whispered, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "You never were. You just didn't know it." And as I sat there, my heart racing, my pulse thundering in my ears, I realized that maybe, just maybe, I didn't have to face this fight alone. The opportunity to set the trap came sooner than I expected. It started with an invitation, a work event he insisted I attend, his voice dripping with the kind of forced enthusiasm that made my skin crawl. "It'll be good for us," he said, leaning against the kitchen counter, his eyes sharp, his smile a little too wide. "You can meet some of my colleagues, see the world I'm building for us." The world he was building for us. I almost laughed, almost rolled my eyes, almost let the bitter, cutting words I had been holding back slip from my tongue. But instead, I smiled, nodded, agreed to play the part one last time. He had no idea what I had been building, no idea that the threads of his carefully curated life were already unraveling, no idea that the woman he had spent years trying to diminish, to control, to silence, had already reclaimed her voice, her power, her worth. I chose my dress carefully that night, something simple, elegant, powerful, a deep, rich color that clung to my curves, that made me feel strong, unbreakable, a statement piece, a silent declaration of war. When we arrived, the room was already buzzing, the air thick with the low hum of conversation, the clink of glasses, the soft rustle of expensive fabric. He moved through the crowd like a king, his hand on my back, his smile wide, his voice carrying over the low music, drawing eyes and admiring glances from all sides. I stayed close, leaned into his touch, smiled when he introduced me to his colleagues, played the part of the supportive girlfriend with a grace I had long since perfected. But behind the scenes, I was already setting the pieces in motion. A few quiet words to the right people, a few carefully chosen hints dropped into conversations, a few small, seemingly innocent revelations whispered into the ears of his closest allies. And as the night wore on, as the wine flowed and the laughter grew louder, I felt the first cracks begin to form in his carefully constructed facade. The first small, quiet shifts in the room that told me the trap was set. He had walked right into it, and he had no idea. It started small, the way most downfalls do. A few sideways glances, a couple of forced, awkward silences. The kind of careful, measured conversations people have when they're trying to process new information without revealing what they know. I watched it all from the sidelines, my glass of champagne cool in my hand, my pulse steady, my heart calm, the chaos around me feeling strangely satisfying, like the first cool breeze after a long, suffocating summer. It began with his friends, the ones who had once laughed at his jokes, clapped him on the back, raised their glasses to his successes without a second thought. They started pulling back, their smiles a little too tight, their conversations a little too forced, their eyes avoiding his when he walked into the room. I could see the confusion on his face, the small, subtle flickers of uncertainty that passed across his features when someone turned away a little too quickly, when a laugh cut off a little too sharply, when a conversation shifted to a safer, less personal topic the moment he approached. He tried to brush it off, to force his way back into the center of the room, to reclaim the spotlight he had once commanded so easily. But you can't charm people forever. Not when the cracks have already started to show. Not when the whispers have already begun to spread. Not when the people who once adored you are beginning to see you for who you really are. I felt a small, sharp thrill as I watched him struggle, his smile growing tighter, his laugh a little too loud, his eyes darting around the room as if searching for an escape. He had thought he could control me, thought he could diminish me, thought he could erase my worth with his careless lies and whispered betrayals. But he had underestimated me, underestimated my strength, underestimated my ability to stand back, to watch, to wait, to strike when the time was right. And now, as the room around him grew colder, as the whispers grew louder, as the carefully constructed mask he had worn for so long began to crack, I felt the first flicker of satisfaction bloom in my chest. He had wanted to humiliate me. Instead, he had destroyed himself. I didn't leave in a rush. There was no dramatic exit, no shattered glass or slammed doors, no shouting match on the front steps. Just the slow, steady process of untangling my life from his, piece by piece, thread by thread, until there was nothing left to hold me in place. I started small, stopped waiting for him to come home before making dinner, stopped checking my phone for his messages, stopped forcing myself to laugh at his jokes, to nod along with his stories, to play the part of the supportive girlfriend he had taken for granted for so long. I bagged up the clothes he had bought me, the ones he had insisted I wear to his work events, the ones that made me feel small, uncomfortable, like a prop in a life that had never really been mine. I took down the photos that lined our hallway, the carefully curated snapshots of a life I had once believed was real. I packed them into a box, slid it into the back of my closet, shut the door, and never looked at them again. I even stopped asking him how his day had been, stopped pretending to care about the small, mundane details of his life, stopped offering the silent, unspoken support he had come to expect without question. And slowly, day by day, the distance between us grew. He noticed. Of course he did. Men like him always do. But only when the power they have so carefully cultivated begins to slip through their fingers. Only when the control they have taken for granted starts to waver. He tried to pull me back, tried to charm me, to coax me, to sweet-talk me into slipping back into the role I had once played so willingly. But I was done pretending, done playing along, done making myself small for the sake of his ego. When the day finally came, I walked out the door with my head held high, my shoulders back, my heart steady in my chest. I didn't look back, not even when I reached the curb, my suitcase bumping against my ankle, the weight of my keys still warm in my hand. I dropped them on the doorstep without a second thought, the metal clinking against the concrete, the final, satisfying note in a song I had stopped singing a long time ago. And as I stepped into the waiting car, I felt the first breath of real freedom fill my lungs. I had walked away, and I would never ever look back. The days that followed felt like waking up from a long, heavy dream. I moved into my new apartment slowly, unpacking one box at a time, letting each small, deliberate choice feel like a declaration of freedom. I hung my own art, painted the walls colors he would have hated, filled the shelves with books I had once set aside, too busy pretending to share his interests to remember my own. I stopped checking my phone for his messages, stopped looking over my shoulder for his shadow, stopped measuring my worth by the reflection I saw in his eyes. I took myself to dinner, sat at the bar, ordered the wine I liked, chose the meal I wanted, let the sound of clinking glasses and quiet conversation wash over me like a warm, steady tide. I reconnected with old friends, women who had known me before I had twisted myself into the version of myself he had once demanded, women who had waited patiently for me to remember who I was, who I had always been. who I would always be, with or without him. I laughed more, breathed deeper, felt the tightness in my chest ease as the days stretched into weeks, each one a little lighter than the last, each one a little more my own. I even started dating again, not because I needed someone else to complete me, but because I wanted to remember what it felt like to be seen, to be valued, to be chosen for exactly who I was. And slowly, the sharp, stinging ache of his betrayal faded, replaced by a quiet, steady certainty that I was enough, that I had always been enough, that his inability to see my worth had never been a reflection of my value, but a testament to his own blindness. I had lost him, but in doing so, I had found myself again, and as I stood on the balcony of my new apartment, the city lights stretching out before me like 1,000 tiny stars, I felt the first real smile I had known in months spread across my lips. I was whole. I was free. I was unbreakable. And he was nothing more than a lesson I had already learned.
They tried to humiliate someone they underestimated. Instead, they wrote the script for their own downfall. Want more savage comebacks like this? Subscribe and binge the Savage Endings playlist. Because when you mess with the wrong one, you're the one who gets posted.